The traditional roles of mum and dad have changed radically in the last quarter of a century. Men have reinvented what it means to be a father in less than a generation. In the 1970s, when I was growing up, dads spent on average a quarter of an hour a day involved in child-related activities. Now, that figure's moved up to nearly 2 hours. Many fathers want to be more involved in their child's upbringing. That's great. This is the 21st century after all. But new research suggests that the role of the father in bringing up their kids is far more important than we thought. I'm going to travel around Britain and meet some of the country's best child psychologists and conduct a series of fascinating experiments. I'll discover how the bond between father and child forms well before birth.
Good morning, sunshine. Are you waking up?
And how a man's hormones change when he has a child.
So this male, compared to what he was, say, 6 months ago, is a completely different hormonal animal.
I'll find out how a father's unique style of play helps his child develop and become independent. How dads lay down their own kind of rules.
Right? There's a limit to how much you can use computer, and we have to set boundaries to this.
I come downstairs and I get ready and I come downstairs, you know, like, you don't wear now.
We had hot pants on then. We're not friends as such. I am the parent. Yeah, parent first, friend after.
And I'll show you how a dad's relationship with his daughter can even influence when she reaches puberty and who she marries. In the next hour, I'm going to investigate the special role a dad plays at every stage in his child's life. It turns out a father's relationship with his child begins even before it's born. Once a man's sperm fertilizes the egg, the baby grows deep inside the mother's womb over the next 9 months. Clearly, the mother has a strong bond with her child. I've always thought that this was a world closed to the father. But research has shown this may not be true at all. In studies carried out in the UK, newborns tested just 4 hours after birth already recognised their father's voice.
Rise and shine. Can you hear me in there?
I want to find out if a baby can identify its father's voice even when it's still in the womb. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Richard. Hi, Richard.
I'm Alice.
Hi, Alice. Times.
Yes.
Alice is 27 weeks pregnant. Her husband, Richard, likes to speak to his unborn baby as often as possible.
Hello. Are you awake in there?
Try and wake him up.
Hello, sunshine. Are you awake?
Today he'll see if his unborn child is listening to him. A sonographer will do an ultrasound scan to monitor the baby's heartbeat.
Hi, my name's Andy. I'll be scanning you today.
Inside the mother's abdomen, it's far from silent. First, I want to see what happens when the baby hears mum's voice. Can you lean in and talk to the baby?
Okay. Hello. Are we awake? Yes. Sorry, I can feel a little bit of kicking. A bit of movement.
As early as 16 weeks into the pregnancy, the baby can hear its mother's voice through the womb. The familiar sound of her voice raises the baby's heartbeat. A clear sign it's responding to her. But now it's Dad's turn. OK, Richard, let's test this out then. Let's see if all of that hard work has paid off. See if your baby responds to your voice.
Hello, it's Daddy. Hello. Hello.
Incredibly, it seems not only can the fetus hear voices, but in this test, it responds more strongly to Dad than Mum.
When you were talking to the baby, the heart rate was 136, but when you were talking to the baby, it was 144. That's nice to know.
It's huge, actually.
So the biggest reaction comes from Dad.
More than me. That's why you're going to have to talk to it much more.
I will. It feels like a closer connection. It's getting a little bit impatient now. We've still got to wait another 3 months nearly.
It doesn't surprise me that a baby's bond with its mother starts in the womb, but what is amazing is the fact that a father's bond with his baby can also start well before birth. Not only that, but startling new research reveals that as soon as the mother gets pregnant, the father's body starts to change as well. And it's all down to hormones, chemicals that race around our body and change the way we behave. Nature appears to have created a cocktail of hormones, specially designed to help fatherhood. Here at Kingston University, Dr. Arthur Brennan believes these hormones can cause physical changes in a man, just like those in a pregnant woman. His research is so extraordinary, I asked to meet one of his patients. Dr. Brennan studied 282 fathers-to-be, including this one, Michelle, who described an extraordinary set of symptoms when his partner became pregnant.
Nausea, and then it became sickness, real sickness.
All right, and how would you describe that sickness?
Well, just vomiting.
Right.
And either in the morning or after lunch.
Strikingly, 55% of the men in Dr. Brennan's study reported symptoms similar to Michelle. Symptoms that most of us associate with pregnant mothers. And what about your appetite? Did that increase at all?
At times I would go into a corner shop and just go and buy something I wouldn't eat normally because I find them disgusting, but like those big sandwiches or yeah, and I would just kind of stuff my face with them.
I find it difficult to understand how it's possible for a man like Michelle to experience the symptoms of pregnancy similar to a woman. But this is a genuine condition. It even has a name, Couvade Syndrome. Dr. Brennan believes the symptoms are caused by a female hormone that lurks in all men and is triggered into action when his partner becomes pregnant.
I do definitively think there is a hormonal basis for Couvade, namely alterations in the female hormone in men, prolactin, during the period of the pregnancy and shortly after birth.
Prolactin is a hormone produced inside the brain and released into the bloodstream. It's known as the mothering hormone, as it triggers lactation in women and their instinct to breastfeed. But why would men produce it? It seems they're not alone. In the animal world, elevated levels of prolactin have been discovered in male marmoset monkeys when they look after their young. They are one of the few primates besides humans who share parenting. Michelle and his wife have just had their baby, and Michelle has agreed to have his prolactin levels tested. First, his blood is taken when he's on his own. He's then asked to cuddle his new daughter, Mathilde, for 15 minutes. Prolactin is a highly responsive hormone, so even this brief exposure to his child should be enough to test his body's reaction. Now we'll compare the levels of prolactin in Michelle's blood before and after he's held his baby.
Result. Thank you very much.
The first result.
Right, okay.
And your second
result. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
OK, don't keep me in suspense any longer.
Absolutely, yes. Well, the results are very interesting. There's an increase, there's particularly high levels of prolactin.
Incredibly, Michelle's levels of prolactin have gone up by 20%.
These results, preliminary results, are very, very encouraging.
And Michelle gets some sort of evidence, really, of where his symptoms are coming from. It seems that just a few minutes of contact with his baby has increased his prolactin levels. It's amazing, but it does seem that dads have evolved these hormonal responses to help them play their part in bringing up the child. Like many fathers, Michelle was present at the birth of his daughter, but the NHS only started to allow men to be present in the delivery room in 1962. The days of men being banned from the delivery suites are long gone. The image of them pacing up and down the corridors, waiting for permission to come and see their babies, that's a thing of the past. In fact, a staggering 93% of fathers are now present at the births of their children. And when they're present, this has a fascinating impact because of another hormone called oxytocin, also known as the love hormone. This is Sebastian and his partner Lindsay. She is about to give birth to their first child. Oxytocin is triggered by skin-to-skin contact and creates a strong emotional bond between a couple. It's what binds them together in lovemaking. But it's also the hormone that controls a woman's contractions. Studies have found that women whose partners were present and supportive during labour were less distressed, with shorter delivery times.
And what the midwife said, hold your breath, and then push it down.
Sebastian's presence is a real plus. He really helps increase the mother's oxytocin, and that makes the contractions less painful. His presence could well be making the process of giving birth much easier. But it can also work the other way around. If the father is too anxious, he inhibits the oxytocin in the mother, and that can lead to a longer and more painful labour. Luckily, that isn't the case with Sebastian and Lindsay. But like every new dad, as soon as the baby is born, he is checking to see who it looks like.
It's got your ears.
Hormones affect both the mother and father through pregnancy and birth, but as soon as the birth is finished, their paths start to divide. A mother always knows that the child is hers, whereas a father can never be absolutely sure. Research suggests that when a new father first looks at his baby, he instinctively searches for signs that his genes have been passed on to the next generation, and that the baby is his. In this study, fathers were placed in a brain scan and shown a picture of a child they'd never seen before. The researchers were amazed to see that the decision-making area of their brain was immediately activated. Mothers, on the other hand, showed no such response. These images seem to suggest that fathers were actually scanning their offspring's faces for indications of paternity. This is proof that men are hardwired very differently to women. And I want to know, how does this actually affect dads' relationships with their children? In particular, I want to find out what effect the key male hormone, testosterone, has on the relationship. Men produce this hormone in much higher quantities than women, and it's strongly associated with aggression. Across the animal kingdom, high testosterone precipitates violent and competitive behaviour in males, especially in the mating season. But surely, this kind of testosterone-fueled behaviour isn't a good idea when there are small babies about. What happens to men's naturally aggressive behaviour when they become dads? I've come to Newcastle to find out. Nick Neve is an evolutionary psychologist and an expert on how testosterone controls men's behaviour. So Nick, testosterone gets a pretty bad press. I mean,
Yes.
can you give me your take on it?
When there's babies about to be born, you do not want some big, butch, hairy, aggressive, violent male around these infants, because males who are high in testosterone have low levels of frustration tolerance. You don't want these guys flying off the handle when the baby starts to cry. But natural selection plays a trick. It switches off the testosterone, it damps it down so that they stop producing large amounts of testosterone. Their kind of bodies almost in a sense become less masculine and slightly more feminine.
So really levelling things out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Testosterone levels drop down dramatically and they seem to be better dads.
I find this an incredible revelation. Not only are new dads flooded with female hormones like prolactin, but the iconic male hormone testosterone is reduced. After birth, a father's testosterone levels will plummet by as much as a third. One experiment clearly demonstrates how this makes fathers behave in a more nurturing fashion. Nick Neve and I are going to recreate this experiment to compare how this new dad acts differently to a single man. First, we ask the new dad to hold a baby doll as we observe him behind a one-way mirror. To encourage him to act naturally, the researcher will chat to him about his family.
Seems very animated.
Yeah. And holding the baby quite close.
Yes.
Everything felt right. I just felt I knew exactly how to pick him up. And I think it was just looking into my own baby's eyes and stuff, it just felt natural.
In the new dads, when you have this very artificial setting with a doll, it's amazing how quickly they fall into the pattern of this is what you do when you hold a baby. So there's the rocking motion. Often the dad will actually look down at the baby and poke the blanket down and just check that, and then think, actually, it's not real.
It's thought that even the smell of a newborn baby can reduce a father's testosterone level. So, the doll has been wrapped in a blanket from his own baby. Although this is a doll, one wonders about the effects of having your own baby's blanket around.
Even though the doll's not real and he knows it's not real, he's still actually responding honestly to it because I think he's getting the smell from the baby. That's going to have a big impact upon his hormone system. The pheromones given off from the blanket, which are the baby, will be having an impact upon his hormones, if they're lowering the testosterone. Male hormones are at their lowest level since way before puberty. They'll never be as low again. So this male, compared to what he was, say, 6 months ago, is a completely different hormonal animal.
Yeah. The powerful bond this father has with his child has transformed him biologically. Next, he is subjected to the sound of a crying baby. How will he react? Remember, his testosterone is far less than a single man.
Some changes.
Looking down a little bit.
Now, crying, of course, as we know, is possibly the most stressful sound that a human can hear. Yes, and he's making sure to calm the baby, say, look, it's okay, Dad's here, there's not a danger, it's fine, Dad's in control. And he's doing a super job. He's rubbing the baby, he's patting the baby. It's very hard to believe that that is a doll.
This new dad can't help himself. He's clearly demonstrating nurturing behaviour, even though he knows it's a doll. This experiment really works.
And it is amazing to see,
my goodness.
Blokes are perceived as being these kind of gruff, dour, insensitive, not very, kind of caring and emotional. But if you put them in a situation like this, the change in them is amazing.
Just makes me think that very early stage when, you do get this drop in testosterone, thank goodness. Thank goodness there's an opportunity to get the best out of dads.
That's right, that's right.
Our new dad's low testosterone level has increased his tolerance and calmed him down.
And these duties, he's done a brilliant job.
So how will a single man, brimming with testosterone, do when he holds a doll? Will he feel as compelled to comfort it?
So what do you think of when you see a baby?
I don't really sort of think of anything. I just associate it with just child. It's just a baby.
Our non-dad here,
yes,
he's relaxed. I mean, there was no tucking in of the baby, there's no comforting of the...
I'm not even sure there was any looking.
No. He's just sitting quite perfectly relaxed as if he's holding a sack of spuds.
Yes. And he's quite engaged with the person talking to him.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
That's the sort of relationship that he knows and understands.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Certainly the hormone response is very, very different because single males have the highest levels of testosterone. They are in kind of mating mode rather than parent mode. And all the studies that have been carried out show that single males have the higher levels of testosterone. As soon as you enter into a long-term relationship, your levels drop. As soon as that relationship bears children, it drops again. And this makes perfectly good sense from an evolutionary point of view.
Now the sound of a baby in distress is played to the single man. Will it trigger a protective instinct in him? Look, I mean, it's just, for goodness sake.
What is this? What is this row, you know? What does this mean?
And he hasn't once looked at the baby. He's really cut off, isn't he?
Fed up, I think, is the word. I've been exposed to this loud noise, and it's meaningless to me.
So this looks like a young man who would be very happy to be relieved of this
to get
baby.
out, yes, yes. He has other things to think about,
Yes.
and it's not babies. And of course that makes perfect sense. It's not what he wants.
Yes, very mechanical handover.
Yes, yes, quick, there you go, let me out of here.
The difference in behaviour between the new dad and the single man is there to protect the baby. After hundreds of thousands of years, evolution has created men to be aggressive, but it has also given them the ability to switch on a paternal instinct at exactly the right moment. It's incredible to think that men have this dramatic physical response to fatherhood, a drop in testosterone which turns even the most macho men into gentle fathers. As a child grows, it becomes less vulnerable, and the dad's testosterone level starts to creep up. But hopefully, by then, he's already developed the skills to be a good dad. This group is called Hit the Ground Crawling, and it was set up by fathers who want to pass on their parenting skills to dads-to-be.
Starts crying all baths on you. It's not my fault.
Yeah, yeah. You signed your disclaimer, mate. So that's it. Okay.
What's interesting is that each time the father is exposed to his child, he bonds more and more. His testosterone may have risen since the birth, but his instincts are still to nurture and protect the child. After all, the child carries his DNA, and by protecting it, he's ensuring that his genes live on after him. The bonding process is vital. It calms him down, and this is enough to counterbalance his rising testosterone. But just in case his emotions and hormones aren't in the right balance, it's worth reinforcing the skills of basic childcare.
Yeah, let's just chuck some in so she knows what's coming. There you go. Oh, is that all right? You know, while she's screaming.
Childcare is not always this easy. It can lead to stress and strain.
Didn't even last 5 minutes. She'll be okay.
When the caring emotions aren't enough to counter a potentially dangerous rise in testosterone, this may cause frustration and aggression. In extreme circumstances, it can lead to reactions such as shaken baby syndrome.
The thing about shaken baby syndrome is that the overwhelming proportion of perpetrators are male. It's dads and male carers that do this, like yourselves and like me. The egg represents the baby's brain, and the Tupperware represents the baby's skull. Now, we've all heard babies cry here today, and over a prolonged period, I defy anyone not to get slightly uptight with it. But you can be there suddenly it turns 6 o'clock in the morning and you're still there, and suddenly you can snap and you just go, will you please shut up? And we have a destroyed egg there, but what that represents is something quite serious in way of brain damage. All that sort of stuff.
Even though men need to be careful of their own strength, research has shown that their masculine physicality actually has a very important role to play in bringing up kids. To investigate exactly how an ultra-masculine father can be good for a child's early development, I'm heading off to the University of Lancaster. So far, I've learned how the arrival of a new baby triggers hormonal and behavioural changes in a father. Now I want to find out just what impact a dad will have as the baby grows into a toddler. I'm here to meet one of the UK's leading experts on fatherhood, psychologist Professor Charlie Lewis.
Hi, Laverne. I'm Charlie.
Hi, nice
Very good to meet you.
Nice. Shall we go around?
Yes, we'll go around to the lab.
In a lab fitted with cameras, he's going to demonstrate that the physical way dads play can help their children to learn. Professor Lewis has asked Joe and his 15-month-old son Jamie to play together in the lab. It's not long before they start some rough and tumble play.
This is classic roughhouse chasing. He puts in the odd bit of classic rough and tumble.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
The dad is trying to introduce him to the sudden burst of activity, which is potentially dangerous. Like if you're falling over towards you, there's an element of danger every time you do it.
So that sort of roughhousing that we saw there, I mean, where's that going to take the child's development?
It's allowing him to exert power, but also to realise the limits of power. So you can't smash into your father, actually, and continue the play or get away with it. So he's learning limits.
This kind of play teaches a child when to respect boundaries, but also how to explore beyond them.
Dads do see it as their prerogative to extend the limits of the security of the child. So they're always just pushing the child more. It's where mums are a little bit hesitant.
They have the strength and the power to sort of hold the child away and throw them around if they want to. And children can learn to expect it, don't they?
They do. I mean, they seek their dads out to do it. Yes. They don't just expect it. They really find it one of the high spots of the day.
I really believe a dad's style of play can help their child develop by teaching them how to push their limits and take risks.
See if you can stand up. See if you can stand up. See if you can stand up. I told you.
Daddy, I don't want to go on here.
That's right. We'll just do a tiny little bit. Ready? Ready? You show again. Ready? I'll hold this.
A father's influence extends even further. Their particular style of play can spur language development. The reason is that dads tend to use less baby talk and more adult language.
I'm quite impressed with what you're doing there, fella. Good job. I don't think you're going to get a job working for BMW, though. Oh no. Fix it. You're probably right. That was a bad design.
You've heard the father say to the child, it's a bad design. There's something peculiar about a father's language. Because they use words that the child is not used to. Mums are constantly adapting their vocabulary so that the child knows the word, whereas dads make these terrible mistakes.
Using this very different word that the child has no understanding of, that does help them spur their language on.
Exactly. We know this from countless studies now that this is the function that many dads seem to serve.
Research has shown that fathers have greater impact than mothers on their children's language development between the ages of 2 and 3.
Would you like to steer as well? Right.
And the larger the vocabulary a father used, the higher their child scored on language tests a year later.
Hands up. Look. Are we insured? Right, here we go again.
Dads not only use longer words, but they encourage more complex uses of language, such as wit and sarcasm. Let's see if we get another bit then.
Anyone think you're doing that on purpose? You're doing that on purpose.
And he said it in a very nice, ironical way too. So he's also introducing a style there. I think we're going to do this on. You think you're doing this on purpose? Smile, as if to say, "Don't you dare do this." At the same time as ironising the situation in a more pleasant way. The father's language tends to be slightly more intense than the mother's. With the odd huge long sentence in there for self-amusement.
Oh, no, what were you thinking there? Very imaginative, I reckon.
In fact, Dad's playfulness leads many toddlers to see him as the more popular, fun parent. Now Mum's come to join them. Look what happens when Dad leaves. Oh, Luke's going to follow Dad.
Yeah, that's...
So you responded to that as if you felt, yep, that's exactly what he should have done.
Some people say that when you're involved in play, then kids will, particularly at the toddler stage, will walk around the mum to get the father's attention. And many mums report feeling really quite cut up about that. But it only works in this particular context. The boy's still not playing, he's at the door. He's saying, I want Dad, you're not good enough to play with these construction toys. You don't use the word design to me. There we are.
Eventually, the child returns and plays for a while. But then the toys are removed to see how Mum and child interact. So what do we typically see of mothers when they're playing with their children?
Physical play which is more measured.
Sedate.
Exactly. Of course, there's an overlap between mums and dads. But the stereotype that mums are much more passive and they don't get in there and say, yes, come on, let's get on with it. This is almost like an archetypal example of that.
I'm really impressed by how a dad's influence is so different from a mum's.
Well done. You can hold the rope.
His behaviour encourages a child to explore beyond their comfort zone with both language and rough and tumble play. Dad's instinct to play seems completely right to me. This is pivotal to their experience with their child. They're teaching their child about independence, what it feels like to have a range of emotions. And actually, when you look in the playground, you see children involved in games which are making them scared, making them happy, and this is really important for their development. So when it comes to playing, Dad seems to tick all the boxes. When a child enters school, the intense family bond is replaced with newfound independence. Children are learning about how the world is organised and how to differentiate between groups of people. An important step in doing this is to identify the difference between the two genders. I asked 7-year-olds Lucy and Josh to draw a picture of the kinds of things their parents do for them at home, with some telling insights. Hello, can you tell me about all the people in your drawing and what they're doing?
That one's my dad, and he's playing football with me. My dad's the one that can play with me a lot. My mum usually does the washing up. And my mum also does the cooking.
Who plays with you more, Mum or Dad?
Dad.
What sort of things do you play?
Well, he gives me piggybacks.
And your mum? What's your mum doing?
Well, she's cooking the dinner for us.
Even in this modern age, it appears that more children see their mums as the nurturer and their dads as the entertainer. So I thought I'd better ask some more children, what are dads for, to see if they agreed. What are dads for?
Dads are for when you need some money, and they play with you and they do jokes and they read you some stories at bedtime. My dad's very funny and he's cheeky and he always snuggles in my bed when I'm sleeping and annoys me.
What's the difference between your mum and dad?
Well, my dad always watches the football and my mum always cleans up. If your mum is busy and you didn't have the dads, you wouldn't have much fun.
It's not fair. All these kids see their dads as the fun parent. But if there's only one parent, the roles of mum and dad have to merge.
Come on in. Let's get it sorted for school, darling.
What's really interesting is that single fathers parent in different ways to single mums. This is Neville. He looks after his daughter Alicia. Alicia's mother left just after she was born 6 years ago. Study of single fathers has shown that men like Neville are just as capable of raising children as single mums, but in a different way.
Your hands are cold.
Sorry.
Your hands are cold, Dad.
I have to, because I'm going to tilt you off, and let's see.
In contrast to single mums, single fathers place more emphasis on teaching their children to be independent by making the learning of life lessons fun. They're still the entertainers.
Oh, look, there's a face. Hello. Hello, face.
In fact, they can make even the most mundane task into a game.
Hang on, armpit check.
Although they like to play, single dads find it more important than single mums to set up a controlled routine in the home.
Every morning, it's the same thing. We do it every day. We do it every single day. Make life easy for me and makes life easy for her. We're going to have a bit of a giggle doing it. But who's that?
That's you.
But there's two, I've got two heads. Why have I got two heads? What's that?
That's hair.
The kids of single dads are more likely to eat breakfast and dinner at a regular time.
Here, baby. Let's see. Sit up, baby. I have that. That's some tomato.
This routine establishes a stronger sense of security, producing children who are more independent and mature. Yeah, we'll catch you up. And it's not just the children of single fathers who find learning fun. All children with fathers who are involved in their early years turn up for school with more confidence, show more patience, and are better able to maintain interest in their work. And studies have shown that this effect is so powerful, it leads to kids who are twice as likely to achieve high grades at school. They are also less likely to show delinquent behaviour or to end up with a criminal record. This is all good news, but fathers have one last key role to play, the hardest of all, when their kids hit the difficult teenage years. As a child moves towards adulthood, the challenge for many dads is how to handle their teenage sons. Many men believe that the best place to bond with their child is right here, on the football pitch. And it's a place where they can push their children to achieve a job that they do rather well. Fathers are far more likely than mothers to encourage their children to be ambitious and competitive. This event has been organised by a group called Dads and Lads, to give fathers an opportunity to remain involved in their sons' lives, but no longer as the entertainer.
My dad comes and watches some of my games, and after the game he gives me like a good bit of advice. Sometimes he may criticise the way that I played, but at the end of the day it's still helping me progress and be like a good footballer. So hopefully some of the stuff he says could like push me into like a academy level.
Breathe, but when you get to that corner, same again to Patrick. Come on, boy.
In the teenage years, a father's role of pushing a child forward often involves disciplining them when they've overstepped the mark. A dad's more dominating physique naturally gives them the upper hand, and explains why mums often rely on the phrase, "wait until your father gets home." What's more important, being their friend or being the disciplinarian?
I try and explain to him that we're not friends as such. I am the parent. Yeah, parent first, friend after. So as he's getting older, you know, what his mum says to him sometimes doesn't get through to him. So, yeah, I am the disciplinarian. He will listen to me once I give him the look.
It's a bit of education, really. So once they know where they've gone wrong and you've showed them where they've gone wrong, hopefully they won't do it again.
Keep going, Joshua! Let's go!
Even though a man's strength puts him at an advantage as a disciplinarian, research shows that fathers are more effective at controlling behaviour when they explain their rules to a child rather than punish them. And what's really surprising is that this is a job they often do better than mums.
Chloe, go! Riley!
To see this in action, I've come to meet psychologist Professor Jay Belsky of Birkbeck College, London.
You say you don't do this often, but you've been going out with friends all week.
We've invited 2 families to take part in a study that should reveal how mothers and fathers discipline their children differently.
Please have a seat.
First up, on the other side of the one-way mirror, is mum Lisa and her 16-year-old daughter Danielle. Professor Belsky has asked them to discuss a source of conflict.
I know we don't really have many arguments, so I chose the phone, because I know you don't like me being on the phone too much.
No.
So Joe, tell me, what are you expecting this test to show?
I think typically what you're going to see with a mother and a daughter, or a mother and a son even, is discourse that's more about relationships, about feelings, about consideration of others.
Say if I'm texting or whatever, you'd be like, oh, get off that phone, you're always on that phone, come here and do this instead.
But I do think sometimes when you're on the phone it's a bit rude because your sister be round, she'll come round to visit you. So I think you need to not spend so much time on that.
I don't realise I'm doing it.
Sounding quite reasonable though.
Yeah.
For a teenager.
And the mother is giving her the time and the space. She's not cutting her off, she's not intruding.
What I don't like about what you do.
And notice how here, what I don't like, it's personal, it's relation. You're doing something to me, not you're violating a legal principle or a rule.
Their conversation swiftly moves on to chores.
I tell you what you do annoy me about. When you're home from school, you don't do nothing.
Mummy's so much
When you're at
harder.
school, you don't do nothing because you look at it as going to work every day. And sometimes, no, I look at you and I think you do a lot.
Yeah, so you give her
So
that.
I can understand that you don't need to do nothing when you're at home.
Yeah.
Notice how the mother, in this case, sort of clearly empathized with the child. You could see it in her face, her smile. It's almost like, I know what you're feeling. And then she said, sort of, I understand where you're coming from. Mothers are more likely to do it than the average father. Hi, thank you very much. We're gonna swap mom and dad now.
Next up is Danielle's dad, Danny, and a conflict that's all too familiar, what his daughter wears. Will he try and understand her point of view?
Guess what I chose?
Go on.
Clothes.
Clothes, right.
And I get ready and I come downstairs, you're like, you're not wearing it out. But then you just can't say that.
We can when it's too revealing, isn't it?
Notice the first thing he did was he challenged the daughter. He disagreed with her. He wasn't empathizing with her. He wasn't understanding where she was coming from. He was posing a challenge.
So a very different style.
He's challenging her. He's disagreeing with her. He's not. There's no evidence that he's understanding that what's being negotiating here is our relationship.
It's like the other night, I was like wearing tights. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but you had hot pants on then.
Yeah, but with tights underneath. You let me go out before wearing shorts, so...
It just depends where you're going. We was going out as a family. It's different when you go out to parties.
What, so, say I'm going to a party next weekend, what, you'd let me wear them out, yeah?
Obviously, depending what the party was, isn't it?
See? Rational, logical, counter.
Explain yourself.
I mean, this could be a dispute or a discussion between 2 attorneys.
It could indeed.
Short tops and everything else, isn't it?
You're saying there are places that you can go in that sort of outfit, and places you can't go.
Rules.
Next time, just tell me, because you just say no. You're just like, no, you're not wearing that.
So he seems very different to Mum, as if he's not even going to try and understand her position.
That's right. This is a matter of his principles, his rules, right or wrong. You're not going out dressed like that.
And that's it. End of story.
And that is how the world is. You know, we have to pay our taxes. We don't like it. We have to stop at the red light, even if we want to keep going. That's the world he's representing. You know, there's a world out there that doesn't really care what you're feeling.
Next up is a very different family, the Chefs.
Good.
Will I see similar differences between the parents of 14-year-old Kishan? Before he can even state his complaint, his mother, Raj, jumps in.
And we need to really address the issues of, you know, going out a little bit less and spending a little less money. So where is all this money going?
When I go out with my friends, I do spend money. I don't go out that often.
You say you don't do this often, but you've been going out with friends all week.
Most of the
Twice,
week.
Twice.
Most of the week.
Twice.
I'd like you to just consider that, you know, obviously got not just yourself to think about, but your sister as well. You have to pull your weight. How about tidying your room up? How about helping your sister?
Well, I think the first thing we saw that was typical about Mom is the appeal to relationships. Time with me, time with family, time with relatives.
When your uncle comes over and you're on the computer,
I do calm down.
You come down, you say hello, and then you go back up.
Oh, so here come back to relationships.
Yep, family.
When you're on the computer and somebody comes over to visit us, what I would like you to do is turn the computer off, come down, and then forget about the computer and wholeheartedly stay there and you know, give it your 100% there.
Now, she did say what I would like you to do. She's appealing to my feelings. I want you to be responsive to my feelings. Be more considerate. Be more considerate of my feelings, your daddy's feelings, your sister's feelings, your uncle's feelings. And also, are you prepared to work with me? You know, not are you prepared to follow a principle, but again, appealing to me.
So what approach will Kishan's dad use to try and change his son's behaviour?
The first topic is the use of the computer. I know I use the computer a lot, but that doesn't just necessarily mean it's for social networking or gaming. I do a lot of that. Yeah.
Every time I've come to your room, you're always on computer.
During the evenings, but that's when you come back.
Yeah, but you are on Facebook.
Oh, okay, but I multitask.
Yeah.
Say, for example, I'm reading Bite Size for an exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also go...
But Facebook
my Facebook page would be open.
But Facebook...
It would be open.
Yeah. But Facebook is not for education.
It's a principle, a rule. There's nothing about, I want to spend time with you.
At the end of the day, there's a limit to how much you can use computer, and we have to set boundaries to that.
During the evening.
Typical of dads, Manoj doesn't rely on emotional arguments. And the same way I saw with fathers and sons on the football pitch, Manoj is setting clear rules and boundaries to prepare his son for the wider world.
These could be partners in a business, deciding salary raises or where to make investments or who's unhappy with that. It's all fact, evidence, analytical discourse. This father, unknowingly, probably unwittingly, is preparing his child nicely for the world, and that use of reason, rationale, logic, analysis should be good for lots of other things besides just, you know, trying to get more computer time from your dad.
Dads are really important in helping teenagers prepare for the bigger world. A dad's style of discipline teaches a child to deal with the real world they will encounter as an adult. Research confirms that whereas kids look to their mothers for day-to-day care and emotional support, they rely on their dads for factual information. And it's the knowledge of these hard facts that helps prepare them for the adult world. Dads can clearly have a big psychological impact on their adolescent children, but what's amazing is that they can also have a biological impact as well, especially when it comes to their daughters. And to find out how, I've come to Durham University to hear about some extraordinary new research from psychologist Dr. Linda Boothroyd. So Linda, tell me about your research.
There's been now a whole slew of studies which have shown that girls who grow up what we call father absent, who for some or all of their early childhood don't have the father living with them, tend to start their periods 6 months to a year before the girls who actually have their parents both married and happy all the way through their childhood.
So puberty's earlier?
Yeah, actually, physically earlier.
Gosh, that's incredible. Fathers are actually having a biological effect.
Potentially, yes. And one of the questions I then started asking is, if there's one possible biological effect happening at puberty, what else is happening at puberty? Can we see other physical changes, for instance, in the face?
Dr. Boothroyd took photos of 2 groups of female students. She studied a group of hundreds of girls who'd grown up with their fathers and another group of hundreds of girls whose fathers had been absent. Then, to compare the 2 groups, Dr. Boothroyd created average faces from each group.
I can use a computer program to mark out the sort of 2-dimensional map of each face and produce the average that blends together the shape and the colour of all 4 faces. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you 2 composite faces. The face of women who report that their parents never lived together or separated before they reached puberty. The other is a group of girls who reported that parents remained together and had a very good relationship when they were children. And what I want you to tell me is which one looks older.
Which one looks older?
Yeah.
A.
Yeah. So this is the girls who reported that their parents had separated when they were children and who may have been experiencing puberty earlier and therefore may just look that little bit older.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I was really struck by it when I first saw it. I only did it out of curiosity in the first place, but I was really quite surprised.
Dr. Boothroyd began to suspect that girls without fathers grow up faster as a kind of self-defence mechanism. This makes sense when we consider our evolutionary past. A girl without a dad would need to secure the protection of another male, and to do so, she would need to reach sexual maturity as early as possible. Even now, the effect a dad has on the age his daughter reaches puberty is still very important. Early puberty has been linked to early sexual activity. And it seems that a teenage girl is 2.5 times more likely to get pregnant if her father is not involved in her life. Dads clearly have a major effect on their daughter's physical development. But I'm about to find out they can also have a huge effect on who their daughters choose to marry or live with.
Dad, will you help us?
Aye, that's good, a sec.
This is Rebecca and her father, Peter. She's a typical teenager.
Thank you.
As girls mature, fathers become increasingly important in how daughters relate to the opposite sex.
Woo!
Rebecca is 14, and without even being aware of it, her taste in men is being strongly influenced by her father's personality.
A lot of lads are a bit like, they love themselves a bit too much, and you think, well, you wouldn't want to be with someone like that, so. I like them who are like funny and have a laugh, like practical jokers as well, like my dad is.
It's probably no surprise her father will influence the type of partner Rebecca picks. What is a surprise is that research has shown women marry men who don't just behave like their fathers, but also look like their fathers. I wondered, could this really be true? Back in Durham, Linda Boothroyd has designed a test to prove it to me. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Dr. Boothroyd has asked some married women to bring in pictures of their husbands and their fathers when they were at a similar age so that they can be compared. The pictures of the husbands and fathers are cut out and mixed up.
Hi.
In the next part of the experiment, a group of 5 volunteers will try and spot any resemblances between these women's husbands and their fathers.
So what we have here is a row of women's fathers at the top and a row of women's husbands at the bottom.
The volunteers' task is to study the faces of the men, then match the ones of the fathers in the top row to the husbands in the bottom row. Match away.
Match away.
Dr. Boothroyd's hypothesis is that when a woman is seeking a husband, she will choose a man who looks like her father if she had a good relationship with him when she was growing up. While they matched the pictures, I decided to meet the wives and hear what they thought of their fathers and husbands. Have your biological parents ever separated?
No.
How much warmth do you remember from your dad, where 9 is a great deal and 1 is not so much? Where would you put a marker?
9.
9, okay. Do you think your husband looks like your father?
I don't think he looks like my dad, but he's like my dad in lots of mannerisms, yes.
What do you think about your father and your husband? Do you think they're similar?
Yes, the characters are very similar.
Okay,
yes.
Can you tell me a bit more?
Same sense of humour.
Okay, so they get along quite well?
They get along very well, yes.
Linda's ready to look at the results. This is an experiment she's done before on a much larger scale, and today her findings confirm what she's observed before. The volunteers have correctly matched fathers and husbands significantly more often than they would have done by chance. In all of our cases, the women got on well with their dads. Out of today's pictures, one father and husband pair had such a close resemblance they were correctly matched by everyone.
Our strongest match was between the husband and father of a woman who had a good relationship with her father throughout her life. That definitely fits in with exactly what we predict. We can see that they've got very similar shaped noses. They've got similar jawlines. They both have very flat, quite thick eyebrows in these pictures.
What does Dr. Boothroyd think is the reason for a woman being attracted to a man who looks like her father?
We're not born with a perfect image of this is a man, this is a woman, this is their faces, and this is who I'm going to marry one day. And so what a father is doing when he's spending time with his children is that he is allowing the child to use his face as a model of what a face should be, and to over time build up this image of a male face for that child.
And what do you think this is telling you about the important role that fathers have?
Fathers, they're not just a behavioural role model for their children, they're also a physical model for their children to learn what people look like.
All of those women that I spoke to said they had a good relationship with their dads, and they recognised that that relationship was continuing now into the couple relationships they were having as adults. So for me, that's fairly conclusive. Women do choose partners that make them feel comfortable and remind them of a relationship that's gone before.
Hello in there. Hello.
It's amazing to think that fathers can influence their offspring from before birth right up until the time for them to choose their own partners. But more than that, I've seen what fathers can offer that mothers instinctively might not. They promote their children's independence and encourage them to explore while still setting clear boundaries. Fathers teach their kids how to understand and accept the rules of the grown-up world they're about to enter. Every child, like this little girl, is a product of its parents, influenced by both the mother and the father. And when this little girl grows up, her father will provide a model of how men should treat her. But what I find extraordinary is how evolution has carefully crafted fathers into the perfect complement for mothers, on both a biological and a psychological level.
Drama here on BBC HD next with Small Dark Places in just a few moments. And tomorrow we're with Lennon Naked at 9:30.